Okay, everybody, here is a video about Quiz 5. Know what a filibuster is and know that a filibuster only exists in the Senate. In order to stop a filibuster, you need 60 senators to invoke what's called cloture, or to invoke a process to end debate. Know about the bill amendment process and where most of the amendments come to bills. Usually that'll be in the floor vote. Remember, the bill goes through a committee and then goes to a debate and then eventually a vote. And most of the amendments are going to be during the floor vote. Know about smart money and how smart money will back incumbents, and incumbents have the advantage such as name recognition, fundraising efforts, the ability to use the congressional post office, and most importantly, like I said, that name recognition. Know about some of the arguments about term limits. Term limits will make things more competitive. Things will be more open if we have term limits. But also, if you look on the other side, kind of the argument against term limits, you take away the experience of members of Congress. So it's kind of more of a personal preference on how you feel about term limits. Remember, Congress is the only elected office that doesn't have term limits. Obviously, the Supreme Court doesn't have term limits either, but that's not an elected office. So just kind of remember that. Know about party control of Congress throughout the years. Up into 1994, Congress was mostly led by Democrats. Now we kind of see it go back and forth. Right now, Democrats are in control of Congress. Prior to that, it was Republicans, and in the 21st century, you've kind of seen it go back and forth. Know what pork is, pork barrel politics, and how that's the efforts of senators and representatives to kind of bring federal money home to their district. It would be like if I was a representative in this area and I wanted to build, have kind of a tax break or some type of service that is provided to my constituents, and I specifically name my area for it because it benefits my area and it makes me look good. Also, know what earmarks are. Earmarks are put in a place where you have specific monies allocated to a program. A good example, and I always use this example, is Head Start. Head Start, money for Head Start is earmarked. Head Start is a pre-kindergarten, and it is money's earmarked for it each year for its funding. Know the advantages of incumbency. Like I said, you have name recognition, you have the ability to fundraise, and using the congressional post office, which kind of goes under the radar a little bit. I to be honest, I haven't really used the mail in a couple of years, so I don't know how much a stamp costs. I pay my bills through bill pay. I send correspondence through email. I don't send out cards or anything like that. So I think probably like 38 cents. So if you are running for re-election and you want to send out a mailer, we'll just say, hypothetically, you'll use bulk mail, and sometimes, you can get a cheaper rate on that. So we'll say 20 cents. Is going to cost you to mail it. If you pay for it on your own, and you said 10,000 mailers out, 20 cents, so that's $2,000. My math is really bad, so we'll just say it costs you $2,000, for example. If you use the congressional post office, you don't have to pay for that. All right, so it's kind of an advantage. You're saving money. Know what the power seniority is, especially in Congress. You got to be put on more prestigious committees, like committees that deal with money or taxation, and that will benefit your district. Know the Senate leadership positions. We have the Senate Majority Leader, which is Chuck Schumer. We have the Senate Minority Leader, which is Mitch McConnell, and in the House we have the Majority Leader, who is actually the Speaker of the House, who is Nancy Pelosi, and then you have the Minority Leader, which is Kevin McCarthy. So those are the leadership positions in the House and the Senate. And the Speaker of the House is really a key position because they can monitor legislation, they can act as a gatekeeper, and they're actually third in line for the presidency. Know the process for impeachment. Any elected official as a president can be impeached, as we saw with Trump, Clinton, and Andrew Johnson. Uh, the House of Representatives will issue the articles of impeachment, and then the Senate will vote on whether to remove or convict that person. You need 66% of senators to agree to remove an individual from office. And what we saw each time in each impeachment that we had here in the United States, we never really got close. Know the California legislative bodies. We have the Assembly and the Senate. Know what gerrymandering is and how gerrymandering is the intentional manipulation of lines to either benefit an ethnic group or a political party. And we're seeing a lot of cases go into the Supreme Court with regards to gerrymandering right now. Okay, the best years. Know that a lot of people moved out west, and by 1963, California was the most populous state and still is. Know that we also kind of became a more religious country as we saw a growth in church membership during that time. We saw a growth in the gross national product where we started making more money. No examples of how the U.S. became a more religious country. We had a national day of prayer that was established. The words under God were added to the Pledge of Allegiance. In God we trust is on our money. And we're very much kind of a country that's influenced by a lot of Judeo-Christian values. Know what domino theory is, and how domino theory is the belief that if one country fell to communism, the neighboring countries would fall. And, that kind of led to an increase in our national defense, especially our ICBM missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles. We had a lot of tension between the United States and the Soviet Union or the USSR at that time. There was, we were on the brink of World War III, and there was a situation called, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and as well as the Bay of Pigs, which were, instances that really strained relations with Cuba, who is a communist country that is really, really close to the United States. It's like 90 miles from Miami. Know about, like I said, the Bay of Pigs, where a lot of Cuban exiles were either imprisoned or killed when they tried to retake Cuba. An effort by the U.S. government to remove Castro from power. They were either imprisoned or killed. And, like I said, the concerning thing about Cuba is that it's so close to the United States. It's 90 miles away. We also had the Cuban Missile Crisis, where missiles in Cuba were pointed at the U.S. and the Soviet Union had taken position in the U.S. In turn, the United States had missiles in Turkey that were pointed at the Soviet Union, and we were on the brink of war for about 13 days. Know about the executive branch. Really, the president can do little about economic cycles, but they're sometimes blamed for it. Know about the psychological function of the president. Social stability, a symbol of unity and nationhood, and kind of a grandfatherly, a motherly substitute in kind of a Freudian sense, where we tried to be calmed and assured when things happen negatively. Know what the War Powers Act did and how the War Powers Act restrict the war-making powers of the president. And one of the key things that the president has to do is the president has to be able to persuade the public to buy into their agenda and to support them. Know about presidential vetoes and how now about 96% of the time when a president vetoes a bill, it'll be sustained. There has been instances where presidential vetoes have been overridden, even though it doesn't happen that often. But about 96% of the time, anytime a president vetoes a bill, it'll be sustained. Know about the formal powers of the president. Like they're the supervisor of the executive branch. They initiate policy and they can grant pardons. One thing that a lot of people think is that the president is the leader of the party. For example, some people might believe that Joe Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party when he's not actually. The DNC has their own leader. Some people might think Trump is the leader of the Republican Party when Romney McDaniel is actually the leader. So they're not the leader of the party. Know about Nixon and why he resigned. Nixon basically resigned because he committed a crime, obstruction of justice. Know about Obamacare and how that made the responsibility of states to enter into agreements with insurance companies to provide insurance to people who couldn't get it through work or couldn't get it through maybe a private broker. And it also put on the fact that you kind of want everybody to have health insurance. Know what Reaganomics is? Reaganomics is the kind of what we call supply side economics or trickle down economics, or what George H.W. Bush called voodoo economics, where we decrease taxes on the wealthy and it would lead down to a trickling effect to benefit the economy. I know who Gerald Ford was. Gerald Ford, one good trivia question about Gerald Ford is he's the only president and vice president to never be elected. Nixon had originally won the presidency with a vice president named Spiro Agnew. Spiro Agnew had some tax troubles and had to resign, so they implemented Ford as the vice president. And then when Nixon resigned, Ford became president. He was the shortest serving kind of non-assassinated president. Know about Clinton and kind of his popularity and his ideas on welfare. Remember, through his whole scandal with Lewinsky, his approval rating actually went up significantly. His approval rating went up. It's kind of strange to look at, and kind of in retrospect, we kind of maybe see that people might not have seen it as maybe his perjury as a big deal. And I remember it too, and I think kind of the feeling of the country at the time was, the economy was going really well. We were really prosperous. We had a surplus. And maybe people felt that was an issue between him and Mrs. Clinton. So that's just kind of me, spitballing things right now. Know about Dick Cheney and how Dick Cheney had probably the most amount of power that a vice president has ever had, in the Persian Gulf War. And, in the second Persian Gulf War, he had the most kind of the influence on both foreign policy and domestic policy. And know a little bit about the Great Recession, which happened under George W. Bush, where we saw the housing market crash and a lot of lenders went out of business, and how it affected the rest of the world. All right, so if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, thanks a lot.